Hello friends. At the moment, I'm still waiting for my PC to get here from the UK. It's looking like it's gonna be here in February, which is very disappointing and very sad. But in the meantime, I decided to engage in this little Photoshop challenge. You see, back in college, I used to have this part-time job working in Photoshop, but my job was a lot more technical. It was just a bunch of color grading, a bunch of pen tool, and a lot of liquify, but I'm not exactly an artist, so this is a little bit outside of my comfort zone, but I'm gonna try it anyway. I'm gonna try to make my WoW undead character into a real person using Photoshop. So for that, we need a pose. I'm not exactly, like I said, an artist, so I can't just draw it from nothing. I definitely need a base for that. So I installed Warcraft Model Viewer, and I was looking for a solid dynamic kind of pose to show off my insane top of the line 10 out of 10 transmog. I decided on this one, it looks good enough, pretty dynamic, except the head was way too small, so we used a head from a different pose instead, make it a little bit bigger because, you know, the head is where the face is, and the face is where your eyes go the first time you see a character apparently, that's what psychology says. Also, I decided to start with the head and start with the face, and thank God, luckily for metahumans. Metahumans is a new tool created by Epic Games, and it's really sick. You can essentially just create a very realistic, a very high detailed, high fidelity looking human, and it's apparently the way of the future, boys. This is what our games look like right now, and they could look like this in the future. I made this bold guy, I got a bunch of screenshots, and after importing a bunch of pieces together and warping them to the original face, it looked really bad. That is terrifying. So I realized, wait, why am I going piece by piece? Where I could just take one screenshot with the correct skin tone and the teeth and the correct pose and just liquefy a little bit and boom, look at that. Next up, I gave him some glasses, because, you know, my character has these sick shades. I just needed to fix the hair. We had to use a little bit of Photoshop magic, some of my old school techniques to mask out the background, and it turned out pretty decent, pretty good. As on one hand he's bald, on the other hand he has amazing hair. Now everything here I just will go little by little, and then in the end I go over everything and make it look proper, because yeah, the final result is really questionable. Let's move on to the shoulders. Shoulders, there's a bunch of bones. I look for a bunch of bones, put them in there, scale them properly. I didn't know what to use for this little band here, so I just used a watch strap I found online. And then we put in this skull. This is actually a monkey skull. I realized this set has a lot of monkey skulls. I didn't notice at first, but everything is a monkey skull, including the belt. A lot of monkey skulls in this set. So I put a monkey skull in there, a bunch of spikes, of course. And for this thing here, I used a sword hilt that I just warped to match all the bones, go around this whole thing. And for the background, I just grabbed a random leather texture, cropped it out, added some shadows, make it look kind of 3D. Again, at the end of the day, I knew I was gonna fix everything in post, so I wasn't really bothered with all the details that looked a little bit sus. And then I just copied everything on the other side, but I wanted to change some of the bones. I didn't want it to just be copy pasted. So I changed all of the bones, and then I realized the new bones look a lot better than the old bones, because the old ones were a bit just washed out, kind of white. So I removed and replaced the old bones with new bones, and at the end of the day we had these nice, actually really nice looking shoulder pads. So I started working on this little metal jaw. The metal jaw is a clear staple. It makes it look like an actual undead, kind of. So I had this big metal texture thing that I warped around, tried my best to make it as 3D as possible, and I even dared to take the liberty of adding like an extra element that's not in the original model. This square looking thing in the jaw. It makes it look a little bit more like a metal plate, because what I had before was just a way too smooth surface. You know, I wanted to make it look like it's made of parts. And a lot of this thing is just trial and error. I didn't exactly have like a proper method for it. I just added things and, you know, I added some shadows and highlights and see what it looks like. And in the end, I mean, it's fine. You know, for my first thing, it looks pretty decent. Now, if only it didn't take me 2 hours to get to this point, that would have been sick. But moving on. We had to do the belt. The belt was super easy. Just a bunch of monkey skulls and a little actual belt on the background. And a little bit of highlights and shadows. And done. Belt was super easy. Now, next up was the chest piece. Chest, not easy. very difficult. I had to make sure I show off my Tabard of the Void. I paid 420,000 gold for this from the black market auction house, and I got it very cheap. This thing goes for over 1 million right now, so I had to show that off, of course. But I'm not very good at drawing these folds, so I tried my best. I tried to make it look kind of like a piece of clothing. I decided to just use myself as a reference point, as a model, and I did the same with the arms, because if you have an actual reference, it's so much easier. So yeah, that's me right there. And this helped a lot with the folds. I didn't make it look super good. I'm not very happy with the chest piece, but it's the best I got. Again, I'm gonna fix it in post a little bit, but for now, this was pretty decent. And now we move on to the arms. And the arms, with the reference, super easy. Just plop them in there, cut out the elbows, put in some elbow bones, a little bit of wrap tool, make it look kinda decent. And then I was thinking of leaving it like this, just changing the color, but I had to stick with the original concept, so I added these Sasuke wraps around the arms, and I realized, wait, I can just abuse the warp tool. So I used just one picture of the wraps, and I just warped it around the fingers, around the arm, around the hand, and then I went over to the other hand and did the exact same thing with the exact same picture. I also gave him some nice claws, of course. The claws are a little bit sus, but it is what it is. I think the hands turned out okay. Maybe the upper arm could use a little bit more work, but again, post. Just keep in mind, we fix it in post, no problem. I used a picture of a cape to get the texture for this lower part of the tabard. I think it turned out pretty okay. And then it was onto the legs. Luckily, I found this amazing picture of a mummy that I could just warp for the legs, and it looks really, really good. I'm really happy with the way his left leg looks. I did the same for the other leg. And then, you know, the kneecaps, of course. These are actual real human knee bones, by the way. I made sure to use the correct bones for the elbows and for the knees. And then for the lower leg, I was just so tired at this point. This was like 6 hours in, so I didn't exactly stay true to the original concept here too much. I didn't have his little toes poke out. I just googled assassin boots for some reason, and I got some decent results. And I got these ones that kind of match with the little wrapping around. And they look a little bit weird, a little bit silly, but again, we're gonna fix it in post. At the end of the day, we're done with the base, and it was time to zoom out, look at the whole picture, and it looked terrible. It looks so bad. The head is too big, shoulders are too big, the colors are everywhere. It looks really, really scuffed. But I know from experience, there is nothing you can't fix with just shadows, highlights, a little bit of color correction, and liquify. So once I had the base, it was pretty simple. I just desaturated the shoulders a little bit, went into liquify, made the shoulders smaller, the head smaller, the back leg a little bit longer. I fixed the arm a little bit, and at the end of the day, the proportions, you know, I'm not an artist, I'm not a professional, but, you know, using my common sense, it kind of looks like a person, kind of. And then we just changed the colors a bit, we made everything match together nicer. And now it was time for the fun part. It was time for the sparkles, effects, and fire and explosions. Just add explosions and galaxies and fire to any image, and it makes it pop and makes it look a lot better. So we added some fire spell to his hand. We added some glowy stuff to the shoulders. A lot of highlights from where the fire on the hand is. I also added this actual solar flare. It turned out kind of decent with all the explosions. I also decided to get rid of the glasses. They just don't fit the whole aesthetic. And also the eyes were a big problem. It's not an actual undead unless it has the yellow glowy eyes. I made the eyes glow and it looks 100 times better. Fixed. And the final result, I cropped it a bit, and this is what we have. I think it looks, I mean, it's fine. It's not too bad. It took me a long time. It took me 7 hours to do this whole thing. Very, very slow. But hey, it was a challenge, and I'm glad I did it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this little Photoshop journey. Let me know what you think. And thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see you in the next video. Peace.